Butter,
Okay.
then Achyuta Samanta,
Okay.
then talk about Kesh.
Okay.
Authentic Odia architecture, state government never approached us.
Oh.
So I was very young, I was lesser known. Gaitonde, if you Dadasaheb Phalke,
Oh.
Nana Patekar, Amal Palekar, Dean de Cruz, I can go on and on. पहला चीज है ये वर्ड बिजनेस हटा दीजिए.
अच्छा जी.
आर्किटेक्चर इज नॉट अ बिजनेस.
Okay.
इससे लाइफ
Okay.
इट्स अ लिविंग प्रोसेस.
होगा तू मशहूर अपने चार लोग में, पांच मैं जो जोड़ लूं तो मात खाएगा. तू जिंदगी की राह में सीधा चल रहा, तो मोड़ एक आएगा तो खो ही जाएगा. मैं टेढ़े मेढ़े रास्तों का एक राही, तू पूछते पता मेरे ही पास आएगा.
Hello guys, welcome to yet another podcast of Maverick Mindset. This evening we have a very interesting guest with us. जितना भी बोलूँ कम रहेगा because in the top 10 names when it comes to architects in India, he's arguably up there. So it's an honor to be conducting this podcast with him. And I want to tell a million things, but it's better we find out, organically what he's all about. And there is a lot of substance to this Maverick. So, sir, thank you for accepting the invitation. The format of this show is going to be very casual. I'm sorry if I've started on a very formal note because you come with a lot of substance and a huge body of work.
I'm very glad I'm here. I've heard about your program. It's very exciting. And I'm humble being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So before I don't even want to introduce because I am overwhelmed by the amount of work you've done, right? So could you tell us what you're all about for our young audience?
What I am all about.
Yes, what are you all about?
Basically, I would like to introduce myself as an architect.
Okay.
I design buildings
Okay.
and I sometimes help them to have it implemented or raised on site.
Yeah.
I love my profession.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about architecture, art, creativity, innovation, and also the history and heritage of the places we work with.
Okay, that's a very, very humble introduction, sir. I'm told that you're in the top 10 architects of India. Now, how does it feel to be in the top 10 architects of India?
Actually, there has not been any rating done.
Okay.
I'm just trying my best,
Okay.
justifying my time, value,
Okay.
and trying to create what I think is most appropriate, most economical,
Yeah.
most functional, and the work that will give you just the maximum satisfaction. The people who use your buildings must enjoy it. That's the idea.
True. Could you tell us a little bit about आपका early childhood के बारे में कुछ बताइएगा?
You see, I was raised, my father was a freedom fighter.
Oh.
He was a teacher. He was a Gandhian.
Gandhian.
And I was raised in a Bhadrak college campus. He was teaching there. And I had six more. We were seven brothers.
Okay.
And because he was a teacher, we were very serious people.
Yeah.
And our house was in the coast of Salandi River.
Achha.
And river had fertility, but Bhadrak has lot of fertility of mind. And seven of us were groomed together. We used to debate. We used to pray in the evening.
Yeah.
We used to do our own garden. So we had, because of my father's influence, we had a lot of Ghanaian way of growing in the childhood.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was a small place.
Yeah.
Now also it's a small place. It has grown slightly bigger, but that time it was much smaller.
This is where you're talking about?
In Bhadrak.
Bhadrak.
Bhadrak of Odisha in the Salandi coast.
Acha. What is your earliest memory of Bhadrak? And what do you remember? When you think of Bhadrak, what is the first memory you have of Bhadrak?
I think the best memory was staying near a river, Salandi river. If you look into the, later on I realized as I did grow up and now also, you find all best human civilizations have happened in the coast of rivers. You talk about Varanasi, you talk about Haridwar, you talk about western cities, wherever. There is some water because water is the life.
Why architecture? Growing up in Bhadrak, क्यों आप क्या आपके मन में ऐसा एक कीड़ा चढ़ा कि you were like I need to pursue architecture and why? मैंने
Actually, I didn't know an architect then.
uh-huh.
So only what architect we knew is Jawaharlal Nehru is the architect of modern India, like that.
Okay.
But when I learnt it, I got deeply impressed because it is art, it is culture, it is heritage. And going to Bombay was also an attraction because I got a seat in JJ School, which is the oldest school of architecture in the whole of Asia. So that was an excitement. And also I understood that you can pursue, you can create, you can build, a lot of freedom. And it was quite exciting hearing it.
Yeah.
And I was too young and I got interested in.
And what were your parents' reaction when you told them that, hey, I want to pursue architecture as a discipline?
I think they were very positive about it because we are 7 brothers. Although we are struggling because he was a teacher and with low economy, but all my brothers are in different professions. They studied in the best schools of the country, Delhi University and management schools, and they are all in different professions. So it was I was last but one. I was into a new profession. They said, go ahead.
Acha. They just said, okay.
Okay, they were happy.
There was
They had-
no convincing.
No convincing because it sounds, and JJ was a good brand. The school name worked and the profession worked. And a lot of people said this is something new and nice. And there was no Google, then when we searched an encyclopedia, then you talked about Egyptian architecture, European architecture. I said it's wonderful to be a part of it.
Correct. When I pursued advertising, I remember watching Mad Men as a kid, and I was like, hey, when I grow up, I want to be a copywriter or ad filmmaker. So I was very charmed by this show. What was your inspiration?
I really didn't have a role model. The only role model I had was nature itself. Right then, I found how nicely the ant hills are being built, how nicely the birds create their nest. Because being in Bhadrak and not knowing much about architecture, so there was no role model for sure. Then later on, as I went and studied in Bombay, I developed role model. But yes, nature was a great inspiration from the day one.
So you were not exposed to Bombay at all up until you went to Bombay. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. तो आप जब बॉम्बे पहुंचे, what was your initial reaction?
You see, I went by train, that time Konark Express. Then I reached, now it is called Chhatrapati Shivaji Station. That time it was Victoria Terminus Station.
Okay.
That's such a beautiful, gigantic building. I was little confused, little lost. And as I came out, stepped out of the railway station, June, July in Mumbai, it rains like, that time Bombay, it rains like hell. It was raining cats and dogs. And as I came out of the railway station, our school was just opposite BT station, JJ campus, next to Times of India building. And I found thousands of people coming out of railway station and whole that area covered with umbrellas.
Okay.
So it's raining, lots of people, the street is full of people, full of umbrellas. So I thought that India is a populous country. It has huge population. Like umbrella, everybody needs a shelter. So my coming to Bombay to pursue architecture education is justified.
Wow. So you had the foresight at that young age. How old were you back then?
I was that time inter science, so I must be 18 years.
Okay. Were the high rises present? मतलब जो हमको दिखाते हैं बम्बई की, the towers and all of that. Was it
Yes,
present?
high rise were always present.
Okay.
But our hostel was in Bandra and our college campus was in near that fort area. So that a lot of colonial buildings.
Okay.
and wonderful buildings.
Yeah.
And it was also exposure to urban life.
Yeah.
And it was a new experience altogether.
Yeah. My take on Mumbai is a very different one. I remember going to Mumbai a few years ago. रात के कुछ 1-2 बजे मैं बलाड एस्टेट में रुक रहा था. I stepped out and then I just started walking, and there are these beautiful Victorian architectures which have been converted into hotels. Right beside this beautiful, gigantic Victorian architecture, I see a small slum.
Yeah.
And a guy just sitting by his jhopar-patti
Yeah.
and listening to radio, and the song that was creeping in was Beqarar karke hame, and I could not help but appreciate the contrast.
Yeah.
Both these things. There is a gigantic, beautiful historical monument here. Right next to it, there is a jhopar-patti. Did you notice this? Did you register this?
I did notice. So it was not a shock because that Jhopalpatti, this Bombay is bound by one word, that is dreams.
Yeah.
The skyscraper person is also dreaming to be taller.
Yeah.
And that Jhopalpatti is also dreaming,
Yeah.
People live huge houses in their village.
Yeah.
From Maharashtra also.
Yeah.
They live in a shared, very horrible accommodation in Bombay.
Yeah.
But because Bombay Maya Nagari hai,
Correct.
तो ड्रीम से वो बंधे हुए
जी.
हैं. I think it is necessary, not for my profession, for everybody to dream. And Bombay also shows that dream can be realized. There are many of them, at least 80s Bombay was a place to pursue your dreams and have it realized.
One of my friends, he works in the real estate space. He's a builder himself. And something you said, he said it in a different, with different words. He said that, Samar, aap dekho, when you market something or when you advertise something, there normally is a product. There normally is a product, but real estate is one of those spaces, or architecture, building is, you're selling a dream. Because when a client comes to you, he's like, hey, I have a dream and I have some money. Can you realize the dream on my behalf?
Right. You see, this architecture profession is a little different from the rest,
Yeah.
Because more than the product, we are selling the process.
Correct.
Because more than the product is, everybody can own a product.
Correct.
But lucky are those who own the process. That's number one. And if process is good, the product will definitely be good. And the second issue, in architecture profession or real estate, the product is sold before it is manufactured.
Okay.
You see, you talk about iPhone.
Yeah.
Or you talk about garments, you talk about any gadgets.
Correct.
They are manufactured and put it to the showroom and all these things, then it is sold. But here it is sold before it is manufactured.
Correct.
So that's the risk.
Yeah.
That's the excitement.
Yeah.
That's the catch.
So have you ever felt daunted when you were building? Is there one project when you were making it, you were really out of your wits as to what is going to pan out? Perhaps at a younger time, whenever.
You see, what happens is when I was in a studio, in a design studio, we don't call classrooms or practical laboratories, we call it studio.
Okay.
One of my professors told me, see Rai, what you wrote or what you designed, what you built yesterday, if you don't regret about it today, your mind has not grown in last 24 hours.
Correct.
So therefore, if you are growing, you are developing, you are thinking, you are improving. But if you freeze a design, then you work for 2 years, the building process takes. So it is bound, market is changing.
Yeah.
People's needs are changing.
Correct.
Aspiration is changing.
Correct.
And also sometimes like COVID and things like that, your social structure is changing.
Correct.
And so incorporating change and freezing a design is quite a challenge.
Yeah.
And how much you can change within, that's very nice.
Okay.
And that has to be really thoughtfully incorporated.
So has it ever happened, because you mentioned this, that you make something today and you regret it tomorrow? By the time a project is realized, you regret it. I'm sorry. You built it for 2 odd years.
every
Yeah.
time, and
और कुछ change कर सकता था इधर.
you think
इधर पानी डाल सकता
I
था.
wish I didn't build it. You know,
Okay.
is some things. You see, you must understand yourself.
Yeah.
You must criticize him. Nobody will tell you, you know.
Correct.
And if you are in a profession in a senior age, very few people will be there to understand the complications it has. But I think you must introspect and change and work on it. At least वो प्रोजेक्ट तो गया है. नेक्स्ट प्रोजेक्ट में थोड़ा सा लर्निंग है. सब में कुछ सीखना चाहिए.
Could we deep dive into the business of architecture? Because we are all about, like, we try to understand the business mindset of our
Yeah,
Mavericks. Could you, from a layman perspective, could you tell us how does the architecture business work or function?
पहला चीज है ये वर्ड बिजनेस हटा दीजिए.
अच्छा जी.
Architecture is not a business.
Okay.
It's a life.
Okay.
It's a living process.
Okay.
It's a way of building your environment, shaping your environment.
Okay.
It's about passion. It's about giving your emotions and giving values to the society. I think through architecture you can do tremendous help to the society. You can build better environment. You can have greener. You can, at least have the climate much better. तो और बिजनेस सोचने से थोड़ा गड़बड़ है.
अच्छा.
So you need money, you need to survive, you have to pay your people, and if you work honestly, I think there is a plenty of scope. But I think इसको थोड़ा अलग से सोचना पड़ेगा. Is filmmaking is a business?
Yeah.
Maybe for a director it may not be business. You are a professional, because for you the biggest thing is the user satisfaction. So it's not what return it gives. The returns are many more, you know. और आप एक बड़ा सा कन्नट प्लेस में एक घटिया बिल्डिंग बनाएंगे, तो whatever money you get, so it's all futile, you know. It has to add value to the society.
Correct. Correct. Very, very tastefully put, sir. So you were in Bombay and you had this massive exposure. You understood what you want to do in life. At what point of time did you come to Odisha and why?
You see, I studied in JJ school.
Okay.
So JJ was very nice. It is now 125 years old schools. And the teaching process was absolutely different, you know, because we used to think a good student is one who is good in physics, good in mathematics. But from your language of physics and mathematics, drawing and graphic communication was a change, which was a challenge. But once you pick it up, then when you go to the school, and that time we had a fantastic students, bright students. Also, more than you had huge alumni, you know. If you talk about Rudyard Kipling, the Nobel laureate, he was born in Dean's Bungalow. His father was the principal of JJ School before we joined, Lockwood Kipling. So we had, if you look into now, M.F. Fusen studied there.
Yeah.
And of course he dropped out, or he left it. Then many other big Raja artists and Gaitonde. If you Dadasaheb Phalke,
Oh.
Nana Patekar, Amal Palekar, Dean de Cruz, I can go on and on.
Yeah.
So this is the type of, and that time, you know, there was not much study of liberal arts,
Okay.
because people will study either medicine or serious engineering. But I think liberal arts study, even if you want to do business, don't do architecture. Architecture education is wonderful because it changes your mind, it makes you think. And nowadays, if you talk about management schools, they talk about product-based learning, they talk about design thinking. Those are there in the architecture schools right there when we studied in 80s. So it was wonderful to be there, and because people were from all over the world, So that was a fantastic interaction and fun also.
I'm really taken aback by you used a term design thinking.
Yeah.
I would not expect a lot of people in Odisha to not only know but also understand design thinking. I personally know about design thinking because that is the tenet of my advertising company. Every problem that we approach it from a POV of design thinking. So is there any project where you have personally, used design thinking to understand how to build a certain structure?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think not any,
No.
all our
All
projects.
of them.
All
Okay.
of them. You see, first you have to think about a concept.
Okay.
So how do you conceptualize? What is your take on the building,
Okay.
So suppose it's a house. Suppose I do your house. Okay.
Correct. Correct.
What are you? And what is the environment you need to make you feel better? So I get into I'm like a teller, You get into your place, your persona, and build for yourself. It's a quite a job. Even in the bigger exercises, suppose you want to do in a waterfront development, how best water can be used.
Yeah.
Or if you want to do somewhere near the temple, so how least you damage the serenity of the temple. So I think each thing you have to take, how best you take care of nature, how best you understand the art, how best you understand the topography, how best you understand the natural wind flow, air flow, light, circulation, topography. I think that's very exciting, because I just want to tell one sentence. The best building is one which has minimum intervention in natural process. Each building is an intervention in natural process. No building looks good better than the nature.
Correct.
And the best building is one which has a minimal intervention, which understands and which very democratically, peacefully, वो साइड का साइड मर्ज कर जाता है, आपको लगे नहीं कुछ बनाया है
Absolutely.
इतना सॉफ्टली.
So you coexist with nature in some
Yeah,
regard.
yeah,
Okay. So you came to Odisha.
yeah.
What was your initial task? What did you want to do in Odisha?
You see, I came back when if you look into my batch or आगे पीछे का batch, so that time the trend was going to America
Okay.
or Europe.
That's right.
Very few, or you stay back in Bombay.
Okay.
Or you go to Delhi. Delhi was Asian Games were happening and there was some good construction was happening. But very few people came back to their native states. I came back to Odisha. So I came back Odisha because Bhubaneswar was a new city. It was a capital city. I thought that instead of being one in many, you be less and contribute. And if you are good from any place, you can contribute and your work will be felt and understood and recognized.
Could you talk? So I found out that you have helped the state government a lot during the cyclone restorations after the 1999 cyclone, which was it was horrible what had happened to our structures back then. So any memories from back then, and how did you tackle it?
You see, it is not 1990 after cyclone, it is prior to super cyclone.
Okay.
So-
Could you take a step back and tell us how did the state government approach you? Or what was the process? What problem statement did they come up with? Could you just narrate that story to us?
Okay, now when we did, I'm talking about cyclone
Correct.
structures we did,
Correct.
or what you call it, cyclone shelters,
Correct.
prior to super cyclone 99.
Correct.
State government never approached us.
Oh.
So I was very young, I was lesser known, and there was a small advertisement. Those days, the Business Week was a magazine,
Okay.
and Business Week had a in the backside also Business Standard. There used to be selection of architects and all these things.
Correct.
So that time, we didn't have anything online, okay?
Okay.
So I came across a small advertisement by a company by the name of Bremen-based company, Lechner and partner, who want to build shelters in India and Bangladesh, and mostly coastal stretch of Odisha. And we did participate, compete, and we got appointed by them. Then we built 23 cyclone shelters in the Odisha coast. You see, we have a coastal stretch of 480 kilometers in Odisha, and it is very vulnerable to super cyclone. So, out of that, we built 23 shelters, and you won't believe, in the super cyclone, except 17 shelters had been built where super cyclone happened, and it had a major effect, and the shelters sort of saved, if you talk about 2,000 people, so it saved 34,000 lives. So that was the contribution of the shelters. Later on, it became the training centers for rescue operation. Then after that, post super cyclone, we built shelters for Spanish Red Cross. We also built for German Red Cross. Also, we built for International Federation of Red Cross. Then if you remember those days, it was very pathetic. I know there was no electricity, and Bhubaneswar had a lot of good trees, old trees, nice trees, canopy trees. They give wonderful shades. They were all gone, and the school education was sort of damaged. Maximum, what happened was effect was on the school education. So we became the architects for Times of India Relief Fund. People contribute 100 rupees, 50 rupees. Out of that, we built 2 schools, one in Bentakar, that's a small place in Cuttack, and Revensa Girls High School near Madhu Babu's house. That's a first girls high school. So those 2 schools were very nicely built with low budget, and that was very much appreciated. And if you work for a media house, you get a good publicity that apart. It was very nicely built, and those shelters became a model, and also the whole of Bangladesh are the repetition of the shelters done by us.
Wow. So you mentioned something. You saved close to 30,000 lives during the super cyclone. How does it feel?
I didn't save. In the process, they got saved.
Of course.
I think there's a special joy in working projects which has social need. So one must be, through your profession, very reinforced to work for social conscience. You have to build a social conscience within and work towards it. That gives you a joy.
Okay. Would you be comfortable telling me which is the most expensive structure you've built till date?
Our structures are not expensive at all. This is a understanding that if you spend a lot of money, the buildings look good.
Okay.
If you put a lot of time, lot of value, lot of thinking into it, the buildings look good. You see, think about your childhood, wherever the place you go to a club, you go to a restaurant. You love the restaurants, which is a very simple roof, nice exposed brick, which doesn't cost much. You go to expensive 5-star hotel, and maybe you pay a lot of money, but not necessarily they give you the best environment. So we sort of, we rather try to promote natural materials, affordable architecture, which people can afford, cost effective, and there could be a richer taste. You see, I'm trying to give you an example.
Okay.
If you ask me, I'm just reverse. If you ask me, or if I ask you, most fashionable man India has ever seen, probably you will think, and I will think of Mahatma Gandhi,
Okay.
who is minimum clad,
Correct.
least expensive. So if a dress or a building, houses, your attitudes, you are the best person or best environment.
Okay. In our initial conversation, you mentioned something about the structures or the Kalingan architectures that and how they're different from Western architectures and how they're more relevant building in Odisha, considering the kind of environment we're in. Would you like to touch upon that?
So my studio, Bastukar Design Studio, where we are right now, we are just 2 kilometers from Lingaraj Temple.
Okay.
Mukteswar Temple is about same distance. Bindusagar water tank is similar distance. And Rajarani Temple will be more than 1 kilometer. Look at Bhubaneswar. Look at the architectural history associated with it. We have 500 India's or world's best protected monuments in and around us.
Yeah.
If you look around, we have such a wonderful Adivasi culture, Adivasi housing standards. Little away, we have Konark Temple. We have Sri Mandir, Puri. We have Lalitgiri, Puspagiri, Udagiri. We have the fantastic Jain vestiges, Khandagiri and Jain architecture, rock cut architecture. इससे अच्छा architectural inspiration कहाँ है? There is nowhere in the world, You just put a 60-kilometer round, you will, circumference. You will find such wonderful, wonderful architectural heritage here. Only we must understand, find out its values, interpret them, and try to contextualize and build architecture which are relevant.
Okay.
So we have to create buildings which are relevant.
Would it be fair to say that Kalingan architecture is in some regard superior to, say, the Western architecture because it's, how do I put this? It's more relevant in this context in Odisha.
I think, you see, what has happened is, these are the materials which are ours.
Okay.
These are the lifestyle which is ours. This is the belief which is ours. This is built by us. We understand our thinking, our philosophy, our way of life, our climate, warm, humid, tropical climate. You need lot of air changes. Look at our houses, old houses in the villages with a wonderful courtyard inside and verandas all around. When COVID happened, everybody was stuck to in his 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom luxury flats. Everybody thought, had I been our village and where nature could be brought into the house. I think we have wonderful, it's not that you have to go west, you have to go to USA, you have to live in smart cities, you have to be in China to understand architecture. I think architecture is very rooted, is very deeply imbibed in us.
But what captures your imagination about Kalingan architecture in specific? Like, is there any insight, something interesting that you feel that people should know about?
I think first is the finest thing about the roofing, the sikhara.
Shikhara.
Sikhara, the roof,
Okay.
the top of the pagoda,
Okay, okay,
the proportions.
okay.
And if you have gone and seen the temples, you see they have temples have 3 units, Garbhagriha and this Bhogamandapa, all these 3 units, They are in a particular angle. As you first enter, the first structure becomes very important to you. Then you go far and see, you find the entire building. So nicely, so good thinking into it. Why architecture? Look into our paintings, look into our sculptures. I was just working in some sculpture called Leogryph. So in a Leogryph, what happens? The lion becomes the most dominant animal sculpture, and you try to combine other animals like, you see, there is horse, there is elephant, there is lion. So horse has speed, lion has power,
Okay.
Elephant
Simple
has elephant has calmness.
Okay.
Can you have a sculpture traditionally, the Diglioglyph, Gajasingh and all, which has the power of all three animals, four animals. I think there are wonderful things to get in, understand, realize, rationalize, and practice.
Whenever you go to Sri Mandira, what is the first thing that strikes you about its architecture?
I think when you get into the temple itself, first is how importantly they're aligned. Then you have, as you get in, and how you find how big is God, not in the volume, in terms of the feel, the perception. And you go into the steps, you rise and you try to gather knowledge and understand. And if you see all the lines, there is strong axiality. They are on a fantastic axis, and all these axis is also cardinal axis. So you try to understand the astronomy, the geometry, and the form, their circulation, and all put together. This is such a wonderful, wonderful astronomic geometry which is put and brought inside. They're so nicely rationalized and built a form those days.
I keep hearing this story about Konark Sun Temple and something about the upper part of the pagoda.
Yeah.
I do not know how much of it is uh, practical. They talk about some magnets, they talk about when it was built, there were some magnetic structures that were built. I don't know how far it is true, but I've heard one of those granny tales, right? When they talk about it, these are some of the things that talk about. And it's very curious to me. So, is there any truth to that?
I think yes,
Yeah.
yes, they were built on magnetic forces. They were worked out, they were rationalized, and it is possible to have a zero magnetic area. And now we know, and put a sculpture there, so it is hanging. It was all great understanding of science and technology. It's a smart city is not now. There were nowadays people talk about smart cities. Tell me one thing: is Banaras not smart? Is Puri not smart? Is Konark Temple not smart? Is Haridwar not smart? So is a smart city is not just having an internet doesn't change. It has to be very rationally built in. It's a wonderful understanding of climate, wonderful understanding of your material, your wonderful understanding of local technology, and putting buildings there.
Okay, interesting. I am one of the alumni of KIIT School of Management.
Okay.
Okay, so I found out that you were the architect who designed a huge portion of KIIT and entirely KIIT School of Management and also KISS. Now, this is a three-pronged question, right? When you were building KIIT, why is it that there is a water structure in KSOM? And my second question is, while building KISS, how did you manage to build Asia's largest kitchen? Was it something you were vying to do? And my third question is, why did Mr. Achyuta Samanta trust you with this project?
So I'll start with first water,
Okay,
then Achyuta Samanta,
okay,
then talk about Kesh.
okay.
You see, when you feel hungry, what or you see a good food, there is a plate of jalebi in front of you. Water comes in your tongue.
Yeah, yeah,
And suppose you are asking me a difficult question, I am tense. The water comes on my forehead.
yeah, yeah.
If I am very emotional and or very sad, water comes on my eyes.
Correct.
When I am happy, water comes on my ear. I'm not comfortable. I'm having a high fever.
Yeah.
There is sweat all around.
Yeah.
So 3/4 of your body mass is water.
Correct.
So water is so close to us.
Correct.
And why not in architecture?
Correct.
Because water gives you life. There is tell me one city in India traditionally which has not been built on with some access to water. The whole of Odisha's prosperity is due to the coastal stretch
Coastal.
we have. I think water has a lot of things, a lot of nice things to contribute to the architecture, and also it sort of supports your microclimate. It cools down, and you reflect, and your buildings look nice, and you feel good seeing water. You are less tense, you are relaxed, and a good breeze, and it helps with your changing your environment. So therefore, having water is one of our 5 elements, and it's necessary to have water. You can't stay away. So water and tree, and these are the things which you love and you grow with.
Yeah.
Talking to Achyut Samant, I'll do a very interesting story.
Okay.
So I had just fresh graduated from Bombay. Then then I had gone to Roorkee. I did my masters in Roorkee University, not IIT Roorkee, and a very small studio. Very, very small. I was young, just starting, and Odisha that time didn't have a much of scope of architecture practice. Some people built small houses here and there. And I had only 2 people working with me. I was the third person architect, and one draftsman, and another person to support with services. One young man came in a motorcycle, very good looking person, handsome boy.
Okay.
So when he came, he was wearing a pair of blue jeans and a white shirt and a Renault pen. Then he said, I said, what makes you come here? So he said, I want to build a school. So that time, nobody was talking about school. So somebody will do a house, a portico extension, and a one-room addition, and if you're fortunate, a free plot to do a house. Okay, that's all. So जो रोज दाल चावल खा रहा है, वो एक बिरयानी सुनने से अच्छा लगता है. So I thought of. So that time there was no computer, nothing. So manually with pencil and thick, we call it cartridge papers. I did a proposal because I had to send some for finance, and that school got built. After the school got built, many schools got built.
Yeah. Which was the first school you built?
I think that was what you call Campus One. It is known as Campus One. That was a Kanaka Manjari school. Then that something happened and we built it. And over the time, I built about more than 1,000,000 square feet for him alone in a year.
Wow.
And he's extremely, extremely hardworking person. I want to tell. You asked me to talk in Hindi.
Yeah.
So I want to tell 2 lines about him.
हाँ जी.
जो पानी में नहाते हैं, जो पानी में नहाते हैं, वो लिबास बदलते हैं. जो पसीने से नहाते हैं, वो दुनिया बदलते हैं.
Nice.
वो आदमी ने पसीने से नहाया और दुनिया बदलाया है. And one of his biggest contributor is KIIS. KIIS is not only in Bhubaneswar, KIIS is all over. So we have built their KIIS campus in Baripada, we have built in Baleswar, in Kandhamal we are building. We are building in Balangir and Bhavani Patna. They are very wonderful, wonderful schools. आप अगर दिखे हैं नहीं दिखे हैं, when you go there, they are better than any public schools. Done in very cost-effective manner. 1,500-1,400 रुपया square feet में. We've been very careful because his dream is to give free education of millions of people. When we did school architecture, you few minutes back, आपने पूछा, do you conceptualize and what is your design process you follow? So we thought that the school, let's say Baripada. Baripada has a lot of Santal population.
Correct.
And जब सांताल का जो है आर्किटेक्चर आदिवासी का एक एस्थेटिक पैटर्न होता है.
Hanji.
Can that, so we asked with a research question, can this building, can this school incorporate, it is not possible to do a single story building like Adivasi houses, can this school incorporate the Adivasi aesthetics of Santal?
Okay.
So that was the question. Then we try to solve it. How do we interpret in a modern building? And we built it and we followed it. I just want to put an insight.
Please.
One man, I respect him. He's Larry Baker, because we are talking about cost
Yes.
effective technology. Larry Baker is an architect who is no more. After his European education, he came to India. He was going to Japan.
Okay.
He came across Mahatma Gandhi.
Okay.
Mahatma Gandhi used to say, if you want to see a change, be a change within. That sentence changed Baker's life. And he went to foothills of Himalayas and solved a leprosy patient, leaving his European architecture degree.
Okay.
Then in the process went to Kerala, got married to a Kerala doctor and made a lot of low-cost houses. Once Laurie Baker asked Mahatma Gandhi, this is a very interesting story. Suppose you want to build a Indian village, what should be the architecture style, or what should we follow? So Gandhiji told Mr. Baker, please see to it that you do not bring any material, any craftsman, any tree, nothing more than 5 kilometers radius.
Okay.
So it must be local aesthetics, local architecture, local plants, local taste, local people, building in local styles. And that time, Larry Baker thought Mahatma Gandhi is a politician, so he's making an interesting statement.
Yeah.
But before 2 years before his death, Larry Baker told Gautam Bhatia, when he was writing his book on him, that it took my whole life to realize how true Mahatma Gandhi was. So all our Adivasi schools, we tried to implement local people, local craftsmen, local architecture, local taste, local Adivasi theme, orientation, and respecting, because they are hilly terrain. Respect the hilly terrain, local site, vernacular practices, and traditional way built. I think that's the best thing we like about KISS.
Which is your favorite architecture
Yeah,
of all your work?
yeah.
Which one do you?
I think if you want to see a good architecture of ours, I love my studio because I spend a lot of time there.
Yeah.
I love KISS outstation houses. Suppose you look into your KISS Balangir, KISS, because KISS Bhavani Patna, it is on a hilly terrain. And it takes care of, it is very respectful to the hill it has in the background and the valley it has in the foreground. I think the buildings must be responsive to the nature all around. So I like that. I like KIIT International School.
Okay.
Because that was a new understanding for us.
It gives a very Dune school vibe.
It gives a Dune school vibe, but school education, in a school education, what happens is you try to just stepping up, I moved all around the world. I saw best possible schools, good schools, bad schools, including dome schools, etc. So you see, you are trying to put a fresh child into a school. So the school will mold the child.
Yeah.
Because you are a product of your environment.
Correct.
So school should be very soft.
Nature and nurture.
Nature and nurture.
Yeah.
So it should not be harsh.
Correct.
It should also give you the value of space. A lot of green quotes come into it, And you should also create your, because abhi, when you grow, I mean 60, you might forget anything, but you will remember your childhood school.
Yeah.
So because that remains your memory.
Correct.
That's your identity. Your school is your identity. And therefore, for children's school, try to use little bright colors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Try
I've
to
noticed that.
take some features
Yeah.
where the children will love to identify themselves throughout their life.
Of course.
So schools must have a strong visual character, visual identity, soft in life, soft in its environment, and should have lot of greeneries.
When you were building Asia's largest kitchen with KISS, and Nat Geo has covered it, very credible platforms have covered it, was that the intent or is it something that just happened?
I think it was God's wish,
Okay.
because it started with Dr. Samant started it with, as he tells, $100.
Yeah.
So with $100 starting an enterprise, you will never think about making the Asia's biggest kitchen. But also, this is the Asia's world's biggest Adivasi school. It is the biggest Adivasi population, and it is the what you call the biggest, is the only first Adivasi university there. So this had to be, and you have to give hygienic, good,
Yeah.
warm food, healthy food in a very affordable price.
Correct.
So your kitchen has to be smart.
Correct.
And होटल हो या स्कूल हो, किचन का महत्व बहुत रहता है, because that sells you. And here in case of Adivasi schools, they are served, they are very limited time, and in a limited period, the thousands of students have to eat, and 20,000 seats they squat, and now they have a chair table, and they are given hygienically in a very fast, they are washed. I think this is a finest example of smart kitchen. One finest example is Lord Jagannath's kitchen. This is a finest example of contemporary kitchen.
If you're building a very new, a modern architecture, do you try to put an element of Kalingan architecture somewhere?
You see, if you look into our architecture, look into Kalingan architecture, our columns are different.
Yes.
Columns means
Why
what
is
you
that?
call is a pillar.
Why is that?
That's the style.
That's
That's the origin.
Is
That's
there a pragmatic function to it? Is there a practical function?
No, it's a support system.
Okay. Okay.
Our roofing styles are different. Our material is different. Our color is, orange tinted.
Yes.
You have candlelight, you have laterite, and all these things.
Yeah.
So we are very orange tinted, colorful people.
The minute I stepped inside your office, there's a structure behind you that stands out, but at the same time it coexists with the modernity of this room.
The structure behind me is a replica of a wall panel from Mukteswar temple.
Okay.
Look at the name, Mukteswar. We are now talking about freedom of speech, freedom, liberty, everything we are trying to do, but we are not free. Okay. But that time we are talking about Mukteswar is God for freedom.
Correct.
And Mukteswar architecture is finest
Correct.
in Odishan temple architecture. The Mukteswar gate is very nice, and this wall panel is very impressive. And we tried to sort of measure it and do a AutoCAD drawing out of it.
Okay.
And I'm so glad that 30 people, sculptors, we have fantastic sculptors in Odisha now also. They worked in Lalitgiri. They are sculptors from Lalitgiri. Lalitgiri has a village of sculptors. All sculptors lived in one village. They were very nice corridor in a single lane houses. Both everybody has a stone column in the house, and they built this. This is a very proud and precious possession, and I love looking at it.
I love looking at it too. It's very intricate and very tastefully done.
Look into the Odisha animals, Odisha leoglyphs, Odisha architectural temple elements. There are fantastic sculptures there. Odisha sculpture is as rich or richer than maybe Odisha's architecture is. And the best thing is that if you look into that period, the art, architecture and sculpture, they were built together, they were conceptualized together. If you look into our paintings, our traditionally
Patachitra.
Patachitra, they are fantastic paintings. You know, I like the sculptures of Nava Gunjara.
Okay.
So
Why?
Nava Gunjara has 9 animals put together in a single form. Lord Krishna
Okay.
was a charioteer,
Okay.
and in the chariot, Arjun was there
Okay.
on a Mahabharata war.
Okay.
So Lord Krishna tries to convince Arjun to fight. Arjun is not interested. I don't know, he was scared to face karma, or he was emotional, killing his own people.
Yeah.
Then Krishna does Vishwarup Darshan, and lot of strange animals, plants, they come out.
Okay.
Suddenly a strange animal comes out, which has, it's a combination of 9 animals.
Okay.
Arjun gets scared, he takes his arrow and he wants to fight. Suddenly he realizes it's a form of Lord Vishnu. He's a bright, Arjun was a bright student. And that Navakunjara sculpture is only there in Odisha, Pata paintings.
Okay.
Such a wonderful forms. If you look into our tradition, the Garuda, the forms of Garuda, I think that's a very wonderful painting and sculpture and architecture styles we have within us all around. So when I built my office, if you look into now, everybody spends so much of money in the interiors. You know. If you see a TV serial, you'll find all flashy and interiors, all modern materials, this, that. Why can't we do our interiors relate to our own culture and own thinking, own ideas, and create a tasteful, rich identity of ours? A Odia, authentic Odia identity can be created in our literature, in our art, in our culture, in our also sports.
I love you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Also food culinary, you know.
Yeah. I'm so glad that someone shares my passion and love for Odisha
Yeah.
and champions the causes. I think we have covered most of the things I wanted to, but there is one thing that I wanted to talk about. It is that there is this one resort you have put together,
Yeah.
which was initially not a peninsula,
Yeah.
but you managed to make it a peninsula.
Yeah.
So for our young listeners, could you explain what is a peninsula and how did you manage to make this mass of land a peninsula? Because I think it is very methodical the way you approached that resort. In my personal opinion, that's crazy how you were able to even conceive it and execute it so beautifully. I'm talking about Coconut Peninsula, by the way.
You see, you are now young.
Yeah.
So as you grow,
Uh,
I went through a process,
Okay.
although I was in a different profession. And as you grow, you go into late 40s, sometimes early 40s. I felt very disoriented. I was teaching architecture, practicing. I thought that I'm not meant for only these limited activities. I must do something else. So what I did is, I thought I must do agriculture. I did farming. I got some money from the practice I did and this. That time the land was cheap. So I bought 30 acres of property in a place in Cuttack district in Tangi. Okay. Then I did agriculture. Then I couldn't become successful because
Okay.
it's full-time activity, you know. You can't be very casual about it.
Yeah.
Then I thought, then I dug up a lot of ponds. Okay.
Okay.
Then I'll grow fish and
Fishiculture.
fell,
Oh.
equally fell.
Okay.
Then the COVID came. So I found that 5-6 ponds. So I did a topo survey of the property. Then I thought, as you told, design thinking.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So design thinking or conceptualizing, I found if I put all these water bodies together, वो जो बीच में जो उसका जो we call it a hido in Odia,
Correct,
or a bond in between, or a land to separate us.
correct.
So you take them away and put them together. And with that earth, I put an island.
Yeah,
So I got a 10 acre of contiguous water body. And 10 acre of a water body can be claimed as per Nalsar Act lake. So if a land mass projects into a larger water body, it is called peninsula. Then there were some coconut trees, so I named it Coconut Peninsula. So there's a beautiful 1 acre of island. It has a lot of people, and then those are the Adivasi people, settlement all around. They were working in Chennai in some plumbers or some road. They were, the early COVID, the people, migrant workers, they came back, There was such a pathetic scene. So all of them worked on that project. It was built during COVID. I was entirely free. So somehow I used to manage to go, and that is how the island got built. But the best thing is that we tried to do all local stones, local materials, local architecture, authentic Odia architecture, authentic Odia architecture. So look at there, in that area we have Chandikhol, it's very close by. We have such a wonderful granite, the blue basalt stone, all of Bangalore builds. We don't build. I built first time in KIIT International School, which you talked about. So we get so good laterite. Our people know how to work on laterite. We have clay tiles, roofing tiles. Only you have to shape them, and we have a traditionally good linear houses. So try to understand that sort of arrangement, that are patterns. We used to have such a thatch house, nicely, nice thatch houses, and they are green. They don't have to be certified to be green. We have mod architecture locally.
Yeah.
Our people know it. Just collect them, put them, and make a story out of it. It becomes a good architecture.
I think I'm just struck by, again, it's absolute genius. And I know you're underselling because you're humble, sir, but just the idea of knowing that 10 acre ka zameen, I can create a water body and that'll be a peninsula. I cannot even fathom someone's brain working like that. And for something like you're just making a resort, but you put so much thought, love, and purpose behind that one project, right?
Have you been in love?
I have been in love. Yes.
So
Dearly,
the
yeah,
girl, the girl
desperately.
comes to your mind 24/7. So
Okay.
you are, if something is 24/7,
Yeah.
you have been also, you have been in love with a girl, okay?
Yes.
You have also must have been in love with your work.
Yes.
You must have also been in love with some books, films.
Correct.
And those days,
Correct.
that 1 week, that 1 year, that 1 week, the film is 24/7 occupying your mind, making you think why he did this, why he didn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this will happen like
will
that. So if you are in love with your work,
Yeah.
follow your passion.
Correct.
You will be somewhere else.
Yeah. There's a Japanese term for it. It's called the flow.
Yeah,
So,
flow, yeah.
once you get into it,
Yeah,
you
it
lose
will
track
flow.
of time.
Yeah.
Right? Something that's monotonous, if you
Yeah.
love doing it.
Yeah.
Like for me, editing or creating
yeah.
content or strategizing, I love strategizing.
Yeah.
I forget time, and like the other day, entire day I went without eating. Today morning I started feeling dizzy, and then I checked that had I had any food.
Yeah.
That's when I realized I hadn't had any food because I was so caught up with what I was doing. And I think that there is so much method in your madness also.
And that was a time when we were designing, the person who details, because architecture is not a one-man job, it's a team job.
Correct.
Everyone is in his individual house. Nobody is allowed dande lagenge police ka if you
Correct.
come out of the house.
Correct.
So everything we're talking on
Yeah.
phone and online, conceptualizing and building. I think it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah. So, just to encapsulate what you have done, so you have rebuilt Odisha after a cyclone. You have, in my opinion, built an entire civilization when you did the work for KIIT and KISS, because the day you built that institution was also the day an entirety of like Patya Chandrasekhar full, it opened up to business, right? So you have actually built livelihood. It's a cascading effect. You build a structure, you don't know what you're building, but that structure gives way to so many livelihoods. It gives way to so many enterprises that mushroom around it. So it's an ecosystem you build. So today, when you sit here, 60 years later, and you have essentially, in my opinion, you've built a civilization and you've built Odisha brick by brick. How does it feel?
It makes me feel that there are a lot of things which are unbuilt. I think we need to build more,
Yeah.
not quantity wise, with sensitivity,
Yeah.
with care,
Yeah.
with compassion.
Yeah.
Look at our city,
Yeah.
Bhubaneswar.
Yeah.
Can you walk on footpaths,
Yeah.
which is takes care of senior citizens?
Yeah.
Is it salutogenic or friendly to senior citizen? Is it friendly to children?
Yeah.
I think there are a lot more to be done, worked, researched, and understood, rationalized, and implemented. So, city building is a process; it's not a product,
Yeah.
and it is not an individual game. It's everybody has a role. The planner has a role. The architect has a role. The user has a role. The government has a role. The media has a role, and to create awareness.
Yeah.
I think it has to be worked together and created. If we want to make Bhubaneswar a better place to live in, I think a lot more thinking and conscious effort have to be.
More design thinking.
Yeah.
I would want to understand what are the three things, because we have a lot of young viewers, a lot of young people who must be venturing into architecture as a discipline and are setting out to be an architect in some regard. They have dreams in their eyes. Hopefully, they get enrolled in JJ school. So, what are three things, practical things that you can give to our young audience that will help them in realizing that dream?
The first thing I want to tell, poet is not important.
Okay.
Poetry is, or the poem is important. Your poem should carry the emotions,
Okay.
thoughts, ideas. It's not your identity. Suppose I'm building a house for you. It is your house. I should not have egoist to see that people come and this is SS Rai's signature house.
Yeah.
It's your house.
Correct.
I think the project is important, not the architect.
Okay.
So you must be very modest,
Yeah.
human.
Yeah.
Second, that the building has to be a part of nature process.
Correct.
So it must exist very softly. It should not have huge burden on the nature. Try to consume minimum and have a maximum or minimum impact in the term. It must be very soft
Okay.
building.
Okay.
Third, be passionate about your work. Don't be desperate. So if you keep working, and there everything, if you keep working and passionately working, world will be yours. And you will be a different person and you will enjoy being what you do.
I hope this experience was great.
Thank you. Thank you. It was mutual. It was wonderful moment and very exciting.
Thank you.
So wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Jai Jagannath. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Hey, it is Samar's channel. I'm sure you are enjoying it. Please like, subscribe and share for more.